Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, no matter where you are, whenever you're watching this. This is Floating in Dreams. Today's video is going to be my top 5, bottom 5 of Nabla. Welcome to everybody watching today. Thank you so very much for joining me. Today I wanted to chat about my favorite and not so favorite products that Nabla does in their range. So these are not necessarily like one product review. I'm trying to talk about what I've tried from the brand so far and tell you about what I think the brand does really well and the things that I think the brand doesn't do well or that they can improve on. So that's sort of like the premise of today's video. So if you're new here, hi, my name is Maaike. I'm from the Netherlands. I like coming on here to chat about eyeshadow palettes, Esses and Catrice reviews, and getting the use out of my makeup. And if you are a snow angel like me, then please consider subscribing, because I like coming on this channel chatting about makeup from a fair girl friendly perspective. I have fair skin with a cool to neutral undertone, and it very much skews my makeup preferences, as you will find out in today's video as well. So if you'd like to stay tuned for that, and then we're going to get cracking. I like starting these videos with the bottom 5 products first, just because I don't want to be a negative Nancy and like end the video on a high note if I can. So that's why we're first going to talk about the things that I think that Nabla can improve on. And I have 5 products here that I want to mention. I did a full face of Nabla last year, which really sort of pushed me to try some more products from the brand. And I have just found that there are some things that I really like about Nabla, and there are just some other things that I feel the brand could improve on a little bit. And the first thing I think that Nabla can improve on is a product I no longer have, because guess what? I decluttered it. And it's the Nabla lipsticks. I don't even know what these were called anymore, but I got one of their red matte lipsticks. I think it was called Masterpiece, if I'm not mistaken. And in terms of like red lipstick, it was a nice red. I just thought that the formula for a matte red lipstick was just a little bit heavy, a little bit drying, and not necessarily what I would like to go for anymore. I have so many red lipsticks in my collection, and I would even pick something like a Catrice over the Nabla ones for sure, which is why it didn't get to stay around. It wasn't really my cup of tea, and I also felt it bled a little bit outside of my lip line after a few hours of wear, which with red lipstick is never a good look. So yeah, Nabla's lipsticks, I don't know, it seems to be very sort of full-on glam. I believe the first lipstick formula they ever did was a liquid lip, and I have completely like stopped wearing liquid lipstick altogether pretty much. So I like something that's a little bit more lightweight, has a much more comfortable texture, and Nabla just isn't my one-stop shop when it comes to lipsticks for sure. Next up is a product that might actually surprise you a little bit, but eyeshadow. Nabla can do really good eyeshadow, as you will see in my top 5. There are certain things they do really well, but their larger palettes, I don't know, I have 2 of them. This one, the Secret and the Soul Blooming, which I believe both of them have been discontinued. I haven't tried any of the Dreamy palettes or that new Read My Mind palette. And while I really appreciate that the packaging and the color story we get inside it are very matching, which I enjoy, but I just feel that in these smaller palettes, the undertones aren't always right for me. I also tried the Nabla side by side, and I decluttered that one because, again, the undertones just didn't really work really well on my fair skin. I didn't get as much out of the palette as I'd like. You definitely need to have a darker skin tone for it to like really show up on you. So medium to deep skin tones, you'll find really good palettes in Nabla for sure, but if you are very fair like me and you have a cool undertone, then their larger palette color stories just don't have a lot going for you. Like look at this, you get some pretty warm tones over here. These are also all quite warm, and then really the only shades I really keep this palette around for are like these 4. So for me, Nabla eyeshadow palettes can be good, just I wouldn't recommend their larger ones per se. And I'm going to sound like a broken record here, because also in their foundation range, the undertones aren't quite right. This is the Skin Realist Skin Tint, and I kept this in my collection because in terms of formula, I did really enjoy it. Plus you get a really, like just a ton of product in here. I believe it's like 50 milliliters, which is a lot for a base product. Most of them come with 30 mils, but this is almost twice as much, which is great. So that's another good one, but I'm not sure if you can see here. but do you just see how yellow this is? And that's something that Nabla doesn't really do very well. They don't really do a lot of different undertones. And this is in shade 1 Fair, and it's the lightest shade they do. Like, this is actually a hair too dark for me. So even if you're paler than me, you will not be able to find your match. Now, I can make this work, especially in the summertime when I get a little bit more of a color to my skin and I really blend it down my neck. I can wear this. There's no issue there. But I do think that if you have a very, very cool undertone, but also if perhaps you have more of a greenish olive undertone, that Nabla is just not your brand for foundation, because their undertones tend to be very golden yellow, which, I mean, given the fact that Nabla is an Italian-based brand, maybe that's why they're doing it. It's just, I want to see a brand that also does different undertones so that I can get a really decent match. This is okay enough for me to keep this product around, but that's why I feel Nabla, in terms of like shade ranges, can really improve on what they are offering in their foundation ranges for sure. I believe the other one was much more full coverage, so I never even tried it. Because I think the other foundation they do is part of the same line as this concealer. This is the Nabla Close Up Stay Full Smooth Concealer. And this I like okay enough. I did use up the Regeneration Concealer from Nabla as well. And these both have the same issue as the foundation with the shades. They are quite yellow toned, so it's not perfect. This concealer does go pretty light, so I did like it. But for me, the reason why I don't love Nabla concealers as much as I want to is because they are incredibly drying on my skin. So if you have oily skin, you're going to love Nabla concealers. But for me, I felt that they just highlighted the texture underneath my eyes a little bit too much. Even though the Regeneration Concealer is supposed to be more hydrating, I didn't find it that hydrating. I was able to make it work. I used it up completely, but it just wasn't quite perfect. Plus that one, I think also I bought it in one of the lightest shade and it was also quite yellow toned. The reason why I still have this one around is because it's like Tarte Shape Tape, and I like those kind of concealers only to like get more creativity out some eye look. So if I want to do a cut crease or a halo eye, I like having a full coverage concealer on hand to make that work. But I cannot personally use something like this and still being able to pull it off. It just pulls into fine lines, and I'm in my late 30s, so that's definitely going to skew my preferences when it comes to concealer. I just want something lightweight that doesn't have a whole lot of coverage. If you want something very full on because maybe you have a lot of blemishes that you want to cover up or dark spots and you just want a very potent concealer, then definitely go in with this. But I prefer to go in with a color corrector first and then adding a concealer on top if I do want to get some more coverage. So for me, this is a bit full on, but I can still make it work. I just have to be a bit more creative with it, but Nabla concealers aren't perfect for me. And then the final bottom 5 is in my singles palette, and it's Nabla Single Shadows. And not because they're bad quality. I mean, I have most of them in this palette. Do you see the size of some of those larger pans? Those are all Nabla. And it just bugs me to no end that Nabla singles aren't the same size as most other round singles. So they make for a pretty messy look when you stick them all together in a palette. Like, this is a Nabla shade, this is a Nabla shade, that is a Nabla shade. They're good quality. Not all of them are as good as I want them to be, but I've kept around a lot of them because they do have some really cool shades. And Nabla does some really stunning singles. I just wish that they would stick to like similar size pans. That is one of the things that really irks me about single shadow sometimes, is that they're all a different size and it can be very difficult to store them, and you end up with a very messy color story like the one I've shown you just now. So yeah, Nabla singles, good quality, but a bit of a pet peeve of mine is the fact that they are such a different size from other singles. Then the top 5. And I think you can see these coming if you're familiar with my channel, save for this one. Nabla does some really good brushes. You don't see me wearing using these a whole lot because I tend to just use the same 10 brushes every single day because it's easy. And I felt that, for instance, this cheek brush from Nabla was a little bit too big. I bought it thinking it could be a good highlighter brush, but it's just a little bit too big for me to really get that done. It's good for blush for me. Like, it will like fit my cheekbone quite well for that. This can also work for like a bronzer or like a contour because it has more of a tapered edge. And these are really nice quality brushes. So that's why I did want to give a shout out to the Nabla brushes, because I have 2 or 3 of them. This is my favorite of the ones I have though. And I just wanted to give it a whirl, and Nabla does some good brushes, you guys. But where it's at for me when it comes to Nabla is cheek products. So let me talk to you about their skin glazing bronzers. This is in the shade Ombre. And you can just see how much I've used this. Like, the embossing is completely gone on this one, and I'm getting to like actually making a dent in this, which, if you've seen the size of my makeup collection, is quite a feat. I keep going back to this. This is their skin loving range, and I have 2 other products to show you as part of my top 5 because I just love it that much. Now, not all of these are labeled as being a certain thing, but this is the skin bronzing powder. So this is definitely meant to be a bronzer. It comes in a heap of shades, which is lovely, and Ombre is my perfect like fair girl sort of bronzer shade here. So I love this little guy, and I can highly recommend these. If you've never tried any Nabla before, you want to dip your toe into the brand, definitely look into their bronzers. But the same goes for the skin glazing glass skin finish glow powder in the shade Privilege. Now, this is where the distinction between blush and highlighter is sort of not there. Like, everything is just called skin glazing, and that's it. But this skin glazing highlighter in the shade Privilege, I love. Ozone is the lightest shade they do, which is even lighter than this. But this is a great peachy tone without it being too dark. So where my gripe with some of the base products is that the undertones are wrong for me, I don't have that issue with these, like the actual complexion products. Like, the bronzers, blushes, and highlighters all work for me just fine, and I can find shades like this that normally in most brands, peach toned highlighters can be so obvious if you have fair skin. But with this, I've kept this over so many other peachy shades I used to have, and this is now my peach highlighter of choice. So if you have fair skin and you're looking for a good peach highlighter, try the Nabla skin glazing one in Privilege. And last but not least, the skin glazing, again, same name. This is in the shade Lola though. So these powders come in shades that are more like highlightery, and then shades that are more blushy, and I use Lola as a blush. This is just one of the best watermelon pink blushes on the market, if you were to ask me. This is so incredibly stunning. And yeah, whenever I wear this, I'm just reminded of summer. It's like watermelon red, pinkish red in a blush shade, and I love those kind of shades. Again, that same lovely gel to powder formula that I love so much about these Nabla skin glazing products, and that's why this had to be another pick for my top 5. But the final pick for the top 5, I just ranted quite a bit about Nabla eyeshadow and how I don't love it. But where for me Nabla can do no wrong when it comes to eyeshadow is in their cutie palettes. I decided to take 2 of these up here to show you, but I think I've liked every single one. There's just 2 that weren't really my favorite. The Metropolitan and the Wild Berry just had a couple of shades that felt a little off for me, or that didn't really go very well with what I like doing in terms of makeup. My favorite of the ones I've kept around are the Analog and the Coral, so I'm gonna tell you more about that. That doesn't mean I don't like the other ones. I love the Midnight, it's a really good blue toned one. The Platinum palette is a really stunning cool tone palette that isn't super cool or ashy if you have a warm or olive undertone. So if you're struggling to find good cool toned, good cool tones for your complexion, definitely check out Nabla's Platinum. And then the Nude is one of my favorite, like nude for everyday kind of palettes. But I feel that these 2 have a little something extra that you will not find in other brands, which is why I wanted to mention these 2 in particular. So the Coral Cutie was one that I initially skipped over because I thought this would not work for me. It's very warm toned, and I don't usually love warm tones. I'm all about the cool tone life, but I found that especially these 4 shades, just wow, it's incredibly stunning. Like, this reddish shade is everything. This brown is quite a neutral tone brown. It's not overly orange toned, so I feel it goes really well, and it kind of can tone down these like more vibrant shades that it has. These two shimmers are lovely. This coral shade is great as well. The only one I'm not in love with is that bronze shade, but I'm never really a big fan of bronzy golds, and those tend to be in these palettes quite a bit. But yeah, the Coral Cutie is definitely a great one. It's definitely more unique as well, because you sort of get like pinky coral and red, which make for a really nice contrast. And when I tried this for the first time, I was like, oh, that's what this is all about. So this is an unexpected favorite for me, which is why I had to mention it here. And I also wanted to mention the Nabla Analog Cutie palette. So this is one that they released later. I think it came out last year. This is also very warm toned. So if there's something that Nabla can do well, it's warm tones. And I think if you are a lover of warm tones, the brand can just offer to you so much. This is a great warm tone palette, even if you have fair skin with a cool to neutral undertone, because it's not too orange. In fact, it's more reddish toned leaning. So these two browns, even though they're very deep and dark and sultry, they have a bit more of a reddish undertone rather than a very orangey bronze undertone, which is why it works. This works more of like a mustard shade on me. This looks very orange in the pen, but I feel that when I blend it out, it really works really well with my skin tone as a crease shade, and we get to really stunning lighter shimmers. I mean, I even like that gold shade in here. It's like a really nice pale gold, and that I feel work really well on me. So yeah, overall, this is one of the best palettes I've seen Nabla doing. And that's why I have to mention it here. So yeah, that's it. That's everything I wanted to share with you today. My top 5, bottom 5 Nabla products. Let me know in a comment down below what your favorites are from Nabla. Maybe I haven't tried, like I've tried a good bunch, but maybe I haven't tried everything yet, I'm sure. I'm really curious after that new Angel Veil Primary kind of dewy thing, but because I have the experience with Nabla complexion products being so warm toned that it doesn't really look nice on me. I haven't really decided to bite the bullet on that one yet, but that's a new product they came out with this year. So that's something I'm still interested in trying. So let me know if you have fair skin and you've tried it, how you fared with that one. Yeah, without further ado, if you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more by me. I come on here several times a week to share with you all of my thoughts about makeup. So I hope you'd like to stay tuned for more, and then I hope to see you in my next video. Bye-bye!